All right, so we're in the lab today, and I don't know that we're going to be able to fix this. There are several other videos that are really good on YouTube about the most common fix for these, which is the potentiometer for this becomes the solder connections get broke. But pretty much this is, I'm going to tear this down. We're going to take a look and see what maybe how this works. Get a couple of details on it, and then we're going to check that solder connection. And see if that happens to be the issue with this. But this is out of a Ford SuperDuty. I think this is out of a 2005. And the reported issue is TBC failure. So stay tuned. We're going to pull this apart, try to figure out a little bit about how it works, and see if it's one of the more common fixes. Hopefully it is. And see if we can get this back in operation. Okay, so this is a real quick video. I don't know how well this is going to come through on camera. But you can see a little bit of separation there. Basically, that solder joint has broken. There was some silicone covering over that. I've scraped most of that off and exposed that little, you can see kind of a hairline crack right around where that goes in. So we're going to clean those up and hopefully make a good connection to that potentiometer. This has been into before, so there's... I can see some other touch-ups which aren't related to the potentiometer that were done previously. So I don't know that this is going to fix it, but I do know this does exhibit the issue that's seen on the others. So we'll go in and see if we can get these touched up and cleaned up. I'm going to replace all the solder on this to hopefully give it a trouble-free life. And I'll also put I'll put a coating back over top of this when I'm done. Okay, so we've got this relatively cleaned up. There's a little bit of flux mess, but as you can see, we removed all the solder. We see a good ring there to attach back to. Maybe a little bit of damage to the board there. We're going to have to do a little bit of testing to make sure that has a good connection. And if need be, I can also add a little jumper wire. This is very low current. When I talk about jumper wire, we're talking about stuff that looks like this. Just to make sure that we got a good, reliable connection. But as you can see, like this here, I didn't take that off. So this has been, at least this screw, somebody's tried to remove that before. There's been a little bit of work done on this one before. This one looked factory, so I had to actually scrape off the silicone coating. But we're going to try to clean these two up, make sure that we have a connection. I may actually have to take this off, but we're just going to clean everything up that we see here and do what testing we can. I don't have the truck here, but we're going to try to clean this particular part up. Kind of give you an idea what we're talking about as far as fixing would be this one and this one. And you may be able to see it here. So that potentiometer, you can see that's a big assembly. And that moves back and forth. Okay. Okay, I've done a little bit more diagnostic, and I found out one interesting thing. The big terminals that are on the potentiometer seem to only be mechanical. Somebody had tried to repair this before, and probably maybe got it too hot or whatever. But one thing I've discovered is those main mechanical connections don't actually go anywhere. I'm going to try to get a shot here. So there's a little ring. There's actually two of them. As you can see here. So basically you've got a connector here and a connector here, which on the back side of the board, there's just a ring with space that does not actually connect anywhere. As you can see, that doesn't actually connect to anything. The connections seem to be the smaller terminals on the outside, so there's 3 of them. So more than likely, if you're diagnosing a trailer brake controller issue, these are probably the ones you need to worry about. These may be, the reason that these came loose is because there's hardly any copper. As you can see, there's one little piece here and one little piece here. And that's never going to hold very well. So these outers are actually the only ones that are connected, and they're not great. A better board layout would have been to let a lot more copper still be on the board. As you can see, there's just a little annular ring with a trace coming out. So it's kind of a, you know, just basically a poor copper design. They could have made that a lot better. If they would have basically done pores, probably on both sides for the actual mounting lugs. And then made these a little bit bigger so that, you know, they wouldn't pull loose. So this should be still salvageable. I'll probably just basically bend the tabs on these rather than trying to worry about the solder on these and connect this up. And we'll see if it works. I don't know that it will. This is basically, this is in pretty bad shape. The screws had already been, supposed to be a Torx bit, but they had already kind of mangled it up a little bit. But it's got the security prong in the center. I was able to get them out, but they're not in great shape. Anyway, I'm going to get this back together and give it back to them and see if it works. But just some insight on what you might see inside of one of these. Most of the videos I've saw really focused on these, and they don't appear to actually go anywhere. The connections you want to worry about are these small ones here. This seems to be purely mechanical, and what it's soldering to on the board is so small that these are generally always going to break. That's just not enough copper still on the board for it to make any mechanical difference, really. Probably the first 2 or 3 times you squeeze it, those are going to come loose. But anyway, I'm going to pop the potentiometer back in these slots. And there's a little area where you hook the springs to on these pegs, and get this back together. Okay, so we got everything put back. As you can see here, really shiny. A little bit rough from the silicone that's underneath. But I did reapply the conformal coating, and this is basically what I used. It's just a urethane that doesn't conduct. And because this, you know, it's kind of going to be in a rough environment inside of a truck, I wanted to reapply that. All these connections are very well done. I don't know if that's going to focus, but the important thing is to use some flux. I just use a little bit of no clean when soldering it. These tabs I did not solder. There's really nothing for them to hold on to. I think that's part of the problem with this design. Is the little annular rings just aren't enough for these tabs to grab onto when you solder them on. So I basically just bent the tabs to provide a mechanical connection. And then actually did a really good job cleaning up the solder for the actual important connections. As you can see, those are nice and shiny. You can kind of see the conformal coating there. That'll harden and provide protection from the environment. But anyway, that's probably about as good as we can fix this, and no further harm to the board. I was a little concerned when I saw these were broke loose, but then after discovering they didn't actually go anywhere on the other side of the board, it wasn't an issue. So basically you only have this small connection here and the 2 on the end on the potentiometer. If we flip it over, you can see where the springs connect. The easiest way I found to get this on is, make sure everything's, once you take it off, make sure everything's good and straight, pop your springs on, and if everything's good and straight, you can basically just push that potentiometer back in. It wasn't a big deal to get in. And like I mentioned before, a good really solder wick's really the only thing that I used to basically wick up all the solder and get it clear. But anyway, I'm going to put all this back together. And hopefully that will, if this was the issue, it should be solved now. This I'm going to clean. Not that it really super matters, because this really does have a fairly decent layer of conformal coating, much thicker than what was on this. But that should fix this issue. There may be other issues or some other issue that I'm unaware of. I don't have the truck here to test with, but this is now connected. I did test, I did ohm out. If I can get some focus here. So I used the trusty ohm meter here, And I was getting wild values off the potentiometer at the back of the connection until I actually fixed those solder joints. And I did test the potentiometer, make sure it was, you know, not dirty or had any kind of issues. I cleaned it. This side of the board was way dirtier than the other side, and I'm sure some grit and stuff had gotten in there. I basically used the contact cleaner to clean that out. But let me get this back together, and we'll get it back to its owner, and hopefully this solves our issue. Okay, so we got it all back together. Got everything cleaned up. A couple of things. One thing you may want to do is just put just a little bit of dielectric grease on this before you assemble it. And hopefully this one's fixed. I think that probably was the issue. I wasn't able to get in touch with the owner, so it'll probably be after this video before I find out whether this works. But I'm pretty confident just by looking at what I saw on the ohm meter that those connections were bad on the outers, and those inners aren't used. So kind of save yourself some time with even messing with them. I hope that helps. And we learned a little bit about Ford engineering. So it would be fairly easy to probably relay out this board and just do a new board and change over all the components if you were really in a pinch. And from what I understand, these are super expensive right now to repair. So that front board seems to be the issue. Really quick and easy to get into this thing, and hopefully that'll be a successful repair. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.